Aloha everyone, and welcome to another Carbon 60 video by me, K. Elmer, and in this video I'd like to share with you what I have learned about using C60 topically. Now obviously before we jump into that, I've got some disclaimers that this material is for research purposes only. C60 and C60 oil is not approved for consumption by the FDA. This is not medical or health advice. This is not a product endorsement. I do not sell any C60 products and I do not get paid in any way to do these videos. I am just sharing what I learned with anyone who wants to learn it. So here we go. Jump right in. First thing I learned was there's a lot of benefits. Not a lot like dozens and dozens, but some considerable interesting scientific research has been done both in private and in academia with regards to what happens when you put C60 on top of the skin and in the hair and scalp and so forth. And so looking at one company, it's a Japanese company called Vitamin C60 BioResearch Corporation. They basically have come out, and all the links in the video description. You can go learn up on their website about their research or the research that they've gathered. But they have discovered, and they actually are producing products. Now what's interesting about this Japanese company is they go back to 2005. They way predate the 2012 rat study that got everybody to start drinking C60 in oil. These guys have been putting it in cosmetics for over a decade. So that's fascinating. And so they have done a lot of research, and they've discovered that there are some real strong benefits about using C60 topically for acne treatment, for aging, inflammatory, wrinkles, moisturizing, pore tightening, hair growth, scalp treatment, and whitening, melanin control. Now, whitening is one thing, but melanin control also ties towards melanomas and anti-cancer as well. So that's real interesting. So a lot of really good, interesting things and benefits that they've discovered in that Japanese company. It also, in the video description, if you want to take a look at it, is a really good article by Dr. Leslie Bauman in Dermatology News, where she actually walks through these various properties of fullerenes and I'm using that word fullerenes and synonymous with C60 for this video. And so fullerenes in cosmetics, where she also talks about the anti-acne properties, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, the hair regrowth, and the antioxidant, and how safe it is, that it's not toxic, to human beings, and so, or any mammal actually. And so there's a lot. I mean, you can just see right here on this one slide that there's a lot of benefits for any of you guys who haven't yet considered using C60 on your skin. Because a lot of us just kind of focus on using C60 as a supplement that you take in orally. But I was really surprised that this goes back so much farther, and it's so much more out there than everybody else who's just taking it. So a lot of really good benefits. Take a look at the video link description, read up on it, and I want to point out, share with you some of the detail. I just grabbed like the top 3 or 4 to share with you, so you can kind of see what the research shows. So here's one science study called the Clinical Evaluation of Fullerene C60 dissolved in squalene for anti-wrinkle cosmetics. So when using C60 for anti-wrinkle, okay, the one experiment here discusses that there is a squalene prepared from olive oil, dissolved the C60 in it. 23 Japanese women, the average age was 38.9, over an 8-week trial. Okay, now these ladies applied the C60 solution on half of their face and then left just oil on the other half. So C60 with oil on one half, just oil on the other half. And after 8 weeks, the science study just determined that there was significantly that the side with the LF, which is the lipofullerene SQ squalene. I got a funny way of saying, C60 oil. LF SQ cream that was applied on the face twice daily was significantly more effective than the placebo, which is just the oil, 8th week without any severe side effects. So it definitely made a difference on wrinkles. Whoa, surprising, interesting. Let's move on. Here's one on acne, where the study was called The Improvement of Acne Vulgaris by Topical Fullerene Application and Its Unique Impact on Skincare. So the method of the study was an open trial using fullerene gel twice a day at 4 and at 8 weeks. They reviewed it, and they discovered, and this is amazing to me, this number here, which is the number of pustules of the acne, okay, reduced 87.6%. That's in 2 months. they were able to, by using just C60 gel, they were able to almost practically eliminate the acne. I mean, at 87.6. And then they basically put in their abstract that the Fullerene gel may help in controlling acne with skincare benefit. I mean, I don't even know why they use the word may. They're probably just being safe, but I'm telling you that 87.6 is a damn high number. So that's amazing effect of C60 on acne. Now let's take a look at C60 on hair growth. Now this is, the prior two were research studies produced by academia, and now this is a research study produced by the private sector from this vitamin C60 BioResearch Corporation. And from this point in the video, I'll just call them, quote, the Japanese company. It's a lot easier to say. So anyway, so their study on hair growth, they took 16 men. They have their own product that they've trademarked called Radical Sponge, and radical obviously meaning that it's a radical oxygen species scavenger, and it sucks it up, right? So they use a cute little marketing phrase here. 16 guys twice a day for 6 months. They, for hair growth, and after 6 months, this is what's really cool. Hair growth rate became 16% faster after the 6 months. So definitely improved their hair growth. And what was interesting about this was I was working on this video right at the same time that, if you know who Ian Mitchell is with the Live Pet, the C60 pet product, he also is the Vice President of Research and Operations for Carbon 60 Plus, the company for humans, and they produce a C60 oil. Anyway, so Carbon 60 Plus put out a new product line about 2 weeks ago, right when I started working on this video, and the new product line is called Health C360, and they've got 3 separate products, and one of those products happens to be hair growth. So here I am studying hair growth, and then boom, this product comes out. I don't have any issues with hair growth, but for those of you who do, you might want to check this out. It's pretty cool. The website basically says that the active ingredient, that what they have discovered was that in their own clinical trials is that they created a C60 product. It's not just pure C60 in any one particular oil. It's a blend of oils. And that their product reactivates hair follicles that have been stalled due to hereditary hair loss, physical conditions, or environmental factors. And they are letting you know that their trials have indicated that you will see results using the C360 hair growth product within 3 to 6 weeks. And here's a picture right off their website. And so you can see this huge patch and really filling in at 150 days. And so that's at Carbon 60 Plus. So if you want to try out C60 on hair growth, clearly, there's now an opportunity to do so. So it's amazing, and both basically a Japanese company and the American company both came up with the same results using Fullerenes for hair growth, and that's just another amazing effect of C60 topically. So now let's talk about the different ways you can use C60 topically. Obviously, number one is cosmetics, which we've been discussing, and skin treatment, acne, wrinkles, cosmetics, etc. So here's just a list of various different types of products that the Japanese company actually makes. They make the actual products that sell to the cosmetic companies, so they're completely wholesale industry supplier. And so this is what they provide, is they basically provide Fullerenes in skincare products, lotions and serums and creams. And then, of course, people have been taking those products, their Fullerene products, and putting them in cosmetics, hair care, beauty laser care, sunscreen, facial masks, and so on and so on. So you can see that you can find C60 in a wide variety of cosmetics. And what's really interesting about this Japanese company is that they've been around since 2005 and doing research studies on this stuff. And so they really predate the rat study. So they've been really doing this stuff for a much longer time than anyone else has in the area of the folks that are making C60 oil to ingest. So what I was surprised to find out, and it was that there's been more activity and for longer about putting C60 on your skin than there's ever been about studies and science and products about ingesting C60. So if anyone is ever worried about ingesting C60, go ahead and try it on your skin, because there's a lot more research and data on that. It goes back to 2005 as opposed to 2012, right? So, it's pretty amazing. So if you want to try C60 on your skin, there's a ton of products out there that already have it in it. It's well established, a lot of good science, and there you go. Now, there's a second way of putting C60 on your skin, and that is an absolute no-brainer for all of you guys who've been taking C60 orally. And that's just use what you've been taking orally, by whatever product you own, or if you make it at home, try it on your skin. And so as I've been reading up on all the different testimonials and the different things that people have been reporting by just taking the stuff you take in your mouth, put it on your skin. I've read the one person put it in their eyes, which I don't recommend at all. That just kind of weirds me out, but they said that it helped with their cataracts, eczema, insect bites, numbness, rashes, sore joints, sore muscles, sunburn, and wound healing. And so I'm gonna right here I can give you a testimony about eczema. I have eczema, and when I have a breakout where my skin starts peeling away and it's itchy and all that, I've been putting C60 oil on my skin, and that it works so much better than the steroidal cream that my doctor prescribes for me. And so I've pretty much given up on the medicines that people prescribe for my eczema, and I just put the C60 oil on like 3, 4, 5 times a day. Whenever it even starts to get itchy, I'll put it on there. And it not only does, because it's in oil, it keeps my skin moist, and it actually just stops the itching, and it heals faster. It's healing a lot faster. So I'm telling you, it's pretty amazing that that not only can you ingest this stuff, you can put it on your skin, and it also gives you some really great results. So something to think about for you guys who've not tried it yet on your skin. Now, of course, what are the best oils for what type of skin type? There's actually a difference. So I did a little research on that, because based on the type of skin you have, you might want to have a oil that's designed for that, or best for that. So here's just a little handy guide that I pulled off the internet, basically saying, hey, if you have oily skin, these are the best oils. So now, as in relationship to C60, you can buy a C60 flaxseed oil. There's a brand new company that just popped up that's selling C60 in flaxseed oil. Of course, there's in my last pricing guide, I showed you different vendors that are selling it out in hemp oil. So for oily skin, C60 flaxseed or C60 hemp. Then, of course, if you have normal and mixed skin, there's sunflower oil. And if you have dry skin, there's C60 olive oil. Olive oil right here, avocado oil, and coconut oil. So there's already on the market C60 oil products that you could buy based on what type of skin you have there. But of course, me, I always advocate make it yourself. But keep in mind what's the best oil for your skin type, and give it a try for the next time you have insect bites, rashes, whatever. It does work. In fact, this might actually really explain, what happened when a friend of mine fell in some poison oak, and because it was all on the outside of him, and it just prevented him from even getting the rash. So it's amazing. It's amazing stuff. So there you go on how to use C60 topically using C60 oil. Now, what I'd like to share with everyone, too, is an experiment, which is a third way of taking or using C60 topically that no one has ever done before, and that is actually applying the raw C60 in a pulverized / monomolecular form right onto your skin. And so the question that this answered for me, which was the research question, was, can you take C60 without oil? And it's a resounding yes. And of course, if you know the story behind this, and if you watch my pulverized C60 video, I had a lab accident where I spilled a whole bunch of this pulverized C60 on my hands and discovered, yes, you can get a massive dose of C60 in a pulverized form. Because the particulate size is so small, it seeps right into your skin, right into your capillaries, right into your bloodstream, and you get a dose of it through your skin really easily. And I discovered that in a lab accident, and then now what I've done is I've replicated that as an experiment to see what it would be like to take C60 regularly through the skin. And I mean by a pulverized C60. So courtesy of Red Lion, thank you very much for producing this product. However, I would like to give a disclaimer in Red Lion's favor that Red Lion Biomedical Labs does not endorse the topical application of pulverized C60 and advises against it. If you go to the website, they will tell you, do not do this. And so, of course, two nut jobs here decided to do it. So the experiment that I want to share with you is the third way to apply and use C60 topically. So this experiment involved two nut jobs at the average age of 55 or 57 and a half years old. Over 6 weeks, each one of us had a 2-gram bottle of pulverized C60, and we took 1 dose a day. The way that we applied, jumped ahead. Now the dosing process that we came up with was we decided, okay, well, why don't we take an amount of C60 pulverized raw C60 that would be equivalent to taking a teaspoon of oil. So here's some quick math, and what it really comes out to is that 1 tablespoon of oil equals 0.12 milliliters of pulverized C60 in solution. And what I mean by that is pulverized C60 comes in a bottle floating in alcohol. Okay, so it's so fine, it's like finer than soot. And so they mix it up with alcohol so that you could use it. Otherwise, it would be really hard to even mess with it. So this is like a 2-gram bottle, and for every 1 gram of pulverized C60, there's 10 milliliters of pure alcohol in this jar. Okay, so what you have to do is basically do the translation of, it's not in oil, it's in alcohol. So for 1 tablespoon of oil, the amount of C60 equals 0.12 milliliters, okay, of pulverized. So that's what we did. Now this is, I'll just name this, I'll name him Jay. I'm Kay. He went before me by about 4 weeks, because it's always good to let someone go first. And so he decided to go ahead and start trying it. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. Let me know what happens. And he didn't die. So then I said, okay, I'll try it too. And so the other nut job tried it first. And in the morning, he used the crook of his arm. That's what he decided to try to do. This is his arm. And then by evening, it would just completely disappear. Now, what it would do is it'd smudge out as you close your arm, but it basically smudged out and completely absorbed into his skin. Of course, there was some that did rub off on his shirt, but the majority got absorbed, according to Jay. Now, the two of us both kind of, I guess we kind of messed with, the best way to apply it, because no one had ever done this before. We're the first ones that ever tried this, so we didn't really know the best way to do this, and so we kind of made it up as we went. And so what we discovered was that the application of the pulverized C60 on the skin, that syringes work best. Now, and what eventually, this is Jay, he first started with this little weird, I don't know, fingernail doohickey thing, and he tried that, it didn't work, and then he switched to using the 1 milliliter syringe that comes with the jar. And in using that, he said it worked really well, and he basically said 1 milliliter syringe, and his dosage was 2 drops. Now, what I did was I started with using this syringe with this. I have 3 milliliter syringes with a 2.5 inch or 2-inch blunt nose needle, and what I use that for is I use that as my extractor of pulverized C60 when I want to, push it into or put it into olive oil or whatever oil. And so that's kind of how I extract it and move it around. And so this is what I started to use, but because I discovered right off in the first few days that a 13 gauge needle puts out way too much pulverized C60, and I just end up splooshing too much I was using the back of my hand, and it just kept coming out way too much, and it was just making a huge mess. So I went and bought much smaller needles. I got a 30 gauge needle, and when I put that on, it just worked splendidly. I can control the actual drops, so I can actually count the drops out one at a time as I put it on my skin. So keep in mind that if you're using needles, or even using this little syringe with this little open area, that the tip dries out. And so when you go to depress it the next day, you have to kind of give it a real strong push to kind of push the plug out, at the end of the needle. and then then the pulverized C60 comes out. So you can imagine that if you have a really big opening, that you're going to gush out a bunch, and you're going to get way more than you intended. So over time, it took several weeks before Jay got good at it, where he could just control the amount he was dosing, and I got good at it when I finally got these needles. So there you go. We learned something. We're sharing it with you. Save yourself a whole bunch of trouble. And then last thing too is that when you do put it on your skin, even though this is what it looked like right when he had done it, he spreads it out, and it's really important to spread it out thin, so that's really thin across your skin, because you don't want to let it be thick, because if you leave it thick over your skin, it'll just dry and flake off, and you don't want to lose it because it's expensive. So you want to really spread it thin so it gets in all the grooves of your skin. Okay. Now this is what we learned from doing this experiment using pulverized C60 topically, was that not all the C60 gets absorbed, as I mentioned, and that activity matters. And so what I mean by that is that Jay has a physical job outside where he's huffing around carrying heavy things, and that's his job. Now my job is I work in an air-conditioned office, and so he's out there sweating, his pores are open, obviously, and so he had a much higher absorption rate than I did. And so you could see what his example was here, where morning and night, and then here's mine. Here's just one example. This was one of the early days when I'd splooshed out probably like 5 or 6 times more than I needed to, and believe me, I didn't even sleep for a couple days after this. But This is what it looked like in the morning at 7 a.m. and this is what it looked like at night at 7 p.m. You can see that a lot of this darkness had gotten soaked into my hand, and of course some does rub off, but a lot of it gets absorbed. And then this is all that was remaining after 7 p.m. I used the napkin, I wiped it off, and there wasn't that much. If I would have took a napkin to this would be black or brown, right? But when I wiped off at night, I was surprised that that much. There was only that much left, and it really wasn't a lot. So this might look like it's a lot, but when you wipe it off, it's not. So a lot of it got absorbed. But I still think that if you stay active and you have you're sweaty, you're hot, your pores are open, you're going to absorb a lot more, and that's just common sense. Now, the locations of our bodies that we were putting this on in our experiment was I was doing the back of the hand because I wear dress shirts and dress pants during the week, and so I was the only exposed area of skin I could do it without with the least amount of it getting rubbed off by clothes. Jay had a different, way of doing things, and he used the crook of his elbow, and I check marked there because that was what he really, really liked. It worked really well for him. He did try the inner wrist, didn't work as well, but so he's kind of voting for crook of elbow. For me, I haven't tried that yet. I'm just doing back of hand, but he definitely said crook of elbow. And one thing I want to add is Jay also mentioned that after a week or so, it didn't seem like his body was absorbing much in the same place. So he'd switch from one elbow to the next, and that seemed to continue to allow his body to absorb the maximum amount. So moving your dosing location around on your body, it seemed to be a good thing. Also, that we specifically picked places on our body where the veins were very close to the skin, so that it went straight into the bloodstream as fast as possible and as much as possible. So close to the skin where your veins are. Stay active, keep your pores open, and so forth. So those are some of the things that we learned in terms of trying to absorb as much as you can. We did also learn that between 1.5 hours and 3 hours is how long it takes for the feeling to kick in when your C60 is in you and doing its job. And the second thing too was that we both were experiencing the same thing, which was by taking C60 topically, we had really high energy for 2 days with only sleeping about 4 hours a night. And then there's a third day where your body just says, nope, no more, I'm not dealing with you, and I don't care how, whatever, I'm just going to get some sleep. So your body just shuts down on the third day, you get a full night's sleep, and then you repeat it again. But then what's interesting is after you kind of do this enough, over a few weeks, there's a point where after like the 6th day, your brain activity starts to balance. You're not as amped up, but you're just kind of like this sustainable hum. You're just doing really well. You've got sustained energy. Your mental acuity is really sharp, and you just stay that way. And so that seems to be what we learned by taking C60 this way. And actually, that's the same thing, right? If you take enough in oil. Okay. Now Jay's a little crazier than I am. He actually wanted to see what it tastes like right out of the jar, which I don't know why, but he did. It's in pure alcohol, right? It's carbon in pure alcohol. So anyway, he put it on his tongue, and he said it tasted like something. I'm not a word that I shouldn't be using in the video, but he also said it tastes like charcoal. So he said it tastes like X and it tastes like charcoal, but he didn't leave any black stain on his tongue, and he definitely said he'll never do that again. So there you go. It's a little bit more experimentation. Results you didn't want to know. And then also, too, there was no change to appetite. No appreciable change. Neither one of us ate more or less. But we both are reporting weight loss in general from taking C60 for close to a year now. And also, too, he ran out, and so when he ran out of liquid C60, Jay reports that he started to scrape it off the inside of the jar and kept like smearing it on his skin, and that actually worked. So he made it last a little bit longer than it was ever intended to. So he had like a little tip he wanted to share with everybody. And then lastly, we both kind of learned that it helps to take a day off. After a while, it's wearing on your brain to be that alert and that awake and that sharp. And so I've come to now stop taking C60 on Sundays just to give my body a day just to like shake it off. And then I find that by taking a day off once a week from it, I have a better effect from it for the rest of the week. So that's a suggestion as well that we both learned from doing this, because C60 topically is a very, very strong way to take C60. And then I wanted to share this picture with you. This is my back of my hand at close zoom. And this is 1 hour after application in muggy heat. And so this is typical Hawaii. It's about 80 degrees, 75 humidity. So it's really out. I took my dogs to the park, and so this was 1 hour after I put this on. This was completely black. And then 1 hour later, you can see how my skin just sucked it all in the little canyons. And so you can see where the C60 goes. It goes into every little line and crack and opening and pore of your hand, and your body just absorbs it really quick. So I thought this was really interesting, because when you look at your skin, you don't realize that you're just a combination of little canyons. So the C60 definitely does absorb into your body, and you definitely can feel it. So I wanted to share with you also the economics behind this. So for the third way of using C60 topically, how does that come out from a cost standpoint? Well, at the end of the day, here's my simple math. Bottom line, 2-gram bottle, 20 milliliters, take 0.12 milliliters per dose. That's 166 doses. And for the cost of C60, this bottle from Red Lion, $162 with shipping, it comes out to 98 cents a day. That's 98 cents per dose. So like I normally take 1 to 2 tablespoons a day, and so to me that'd be like $2, not even $2, right? So for regular folks taking 1 tablespoon a day, it'd be like $1 a day for the same amount of C60 that you would have in a tablespoon of oil, right? We're talking quantities. So it's really inexpensive. I was really surprised how inexpensive this was, and then compare that to olive oil. Now, if you took a look at the pricing guide, the most recent one I put out, the average cost per ounce of C60 olive oil is $10.60 an ounce. And so 1 tablespoon is roughly half an ounce, so it's like $5 a day. So if you're taking C60 olive oil, it's about $5 a day at a tablespoon a day. Compare that to $1 a day if you took it just directly, no oil. So it's interesting from an economic standpoint as well, in terms of making the decision to try it or not. Anyway, I did want to share lastly that there are some downsides. The downsides to taking pulverized C60 on your hands, or on your skin, is that it's just messy. It's really easy, like I said, with that needle and with the scoopers and all the things you do. It's just so messy. It's kind of like paint, and so. And then it gets stuck in the needle, and you push out and sploosh, and then you got a big old sploosh all over. I got it on my clothes a bunch of times, on my desk. It's just messy, and so it's really easy to put too much out. And when you do, it's wasteful. It messes with your sleep if you take too much. And then there's this thing that Jay came up with. He calls it the Lucy effect. When you end up taking too much because you spilled it on yourself, it's like the movie Lucy, where the girl gets her brain just kind of goes wacky on that stuff, and she just starts to activate more and more and more of her brain. That's kind of how he describes the feeling. I know what he means. I call it like sharpness, mental acuity. It's really hard to describe what happens when you take too much pulverized C60 on your skin. You get like this, you're in this zone thing, and it's the Lucy effect. He calls it that. I agree. Good term for it. It's wild. It's really you don't sleep, but you're just really, really alert. And that's kind of a downside, because sleep is a good thing, and you miss it when you don't get to. Okay, so the other thing I kind of mentioned is messy and it gets on your clothes. And lastly, you're weird. And I didn't realize this part about my experiment. It didn't even occur to me, but here I am. I'm putting it on the back of my hand, and then I'm going to my office, right? Now, Jay's out in the tundra. He's got it in his shirt, so no one sees him doing it. But I don't want to get it on my work clothes, so I just put it on the back of my hand, right? So day one, I'm out there. It's like a Monday. I got this smudge on my hand, and people are looking at me like, "Hey, so what's on your hand?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was just doing some stuff this weekend. I got some stuff on my hand." They're like, "Oh, okay." And they're thinking like I got paint on me or something. And then the next day they see me again, and nobody says anything. And then finally somebody says, "What's on your hand?" I noticed you still got that stain. And you're like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm just doing. I just got some stuff on my hand." And after a while, people kind of look at you like, "This guy don't wash his hands." And it's just get that whole weird thing, like you're sitting in an elevator with somebody that they know you, but you don't remember each other's names, and there's that awkward silence thing going on. Yeah, that's kind of it. People are now being like real weird with me, like, "Whoa, man, Kay doesn't wash his hands." And so finally, this is the kicker. So finally, like on the 5th day, somebody finally looks at me and goes, "What's on your hand?" And I'm like, So I go, "Oh." I do a science channel on YouTube where I'm studying the effects of a particular carbon allotrope applied topically on my skin in a monomolecular form. And I just stared at them. And they looked at me, they looked at my hand, they looked at me, and they went, and they walked away. And then that's the answer I give everybody now. And they all just look at me, look at my hand, and they walk away. So you're weird if you do this. So be prepared. So anyway, with all that said, I want to just conclude this video and just say thank you so much. I hope you learned something today. I'm just sharing what I've learned, and I'm glad that I'm also reading your comments about what you're learning and what you're experiencing, so keep doing that. And thank you very much. Using C60 topically, there's a lot more studies on it. It goes a lot farther back than ingesting C60 oil. And there's multiple ways you can do it, and you know what, and it might be even more economical. So there's a lot of real interesting things about taking C60 topically that I thought was worth learning about, and definitely worth sharing. Thank you again for your time. I know it's precious. I really appreciate you stopping by, and aloha. Have a great day.